Hi. I think this is live. It's funny because it says it's live, but then it's like loading at the same time. So then I watched the replay and I'm like, I was live the whole time. What's up, guys? Happy Christmas Eve. I wanted to just spend a little bit of live time with you guys. The boys are playing video games and hanging out. I had a luxuriously slow morning, woke up super late, which was awesome, and have just enjoyed food and coffee and time with my boys, and it's been great. So, first of all, a very, very warm happy Christmas to all of you guys who celebrate. Hi, Chelsea. I love you too. I can't wait to hang out with you. I'm so glad that you're back. Hopefully, you're back soon if you're not back already. Very warm, happy Christmas. I definitely know this year has been so incredibly difficult on so many levels, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And ironically, I feel like the internet space is a space sometimes of so much contention and challenge and separation, but it's also a space of being able to connect and communicate and come together, which I greatly appreciate about the online space. So I am grateful that I get to be here and to see so many of you guys, even though I'm spending way less time on Facebook, as you guys know, because I no longer have the apps on my phone for Instagram or Facebook. So you're probably going to get way more lives from me on still posts since my stories are gone. And I miss stories, I miss communicating with you guys and connecting that way, but it's just a personal choice I had to make because I did not feel comfortable with the data policy of the apps. So I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm spending way more time on YouTube. I'm spending way more time with my website people, my email list, and that's awesome. I'm really excited about that. So I dropped some links actually if you want to be on that email list and hang out in that website world, because that's where a lot of my content is now going to be appearing first. So that being said, before I dive into the show, which I think so many of you are going to really appreciate hearing about, and it might blow your minds in a way that you did not expect. I just want to say that enrollment for my fitness group is still open. It opened on the 21st. I'm trying to get people in there as quickly as possible because I want to make sure all of your gear shows up in time for the January 11th group. So you do need the gear to do the program. It's not like an optional thing. So I don't want anybody to not have it when we start. So please drop me a line as soon as possible to make sure that you have all your stuff. Usually our shipment is really fast, but due to COVID, it's been slow. So I'm trying to be really conservative with shipping. That's the first thing. I think I have 4 more spots, 5 more from what I wanted to put in there, 4 or 5. And then I have an announcement at the end of this video. So stay tuned for that. But so the show I'm referring to is called Love on the Spectrum, and it's on Netflix. And we were flipping through shows last night when we stumbled upon the show. And I didn't, I just saw the title. It's like Love on the Spectrum. It was under like documentaries, and I was like, that's interesting. I clicked on it to read the description, and it was about these individuals finding love being on the autism spectrum. And I was like, this is fascinating. It was just like following the lives of certain individuals, female, male, and their particular expression of autism, and then their particular desire for relationships, and then watching them go on dates and watching them get coached by a relationship coach. It was so fascinating. I said to my husband before we ever pushed play, I said, this show is going to be the most honest example of what it's really like to be in a relationship. Because if there's one thing I've learned about individuals on the spectrum is that honesty is something that just pours from them. They cannot filter. They don't try to pretend. Like, masking is something that a lot of them maybe have learned because they know that they're different. But once they kind of embrace who they are and embrace that they're on the spectrum, like, that really drops away, and they become these really beautiful, intensely individualistic beings that I have learned to appreciate so much. So I couldn't wait to watch the show. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be like bust. And a little bit of backstory to this. My husband and I have both recently discovered that we have ADHD, and we have different versions of it. So I have an attentive disorder, which makes me extremely distracted. And it's very difficult for me to stay on task, to complete things, I like routines and I thrive on routines, and it's hard to keep them. So part of the reason why I'm so passionate about teaching that, especially in like a health realm, is because it's so hard for me. It's not something that comes organic. I know it's very challenging. So I enjoy coaching people on that because I know how hard it can be. But I also know how much it can change your life. So he, on the other hand, has this OCD expression to his ADHD where it's like cleaning and organizing and putting things away. He's like really good at that. And so you can imagine between someone who's OCD and inattentive how much drama can come up because I can't finish a task to save my life. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, this is so easy. You just do, you know, like to him, his brain just works differently. But then the other thing that we have been exploring is, you know, the possibility that he also had some Asperger's. And I have suspected this for a long time, just from sort of some social things that I noticed in our relationship early on. And I brought it up to his attention. I was like, did you know that you could very possibly have this? And it could just be part of like who you are and why social situations have been so difficult for you. And he didn't really think anything of it, right? But this has kind of been like in the background of our conversation for some time. One thing I do know about our relationship is we complement each other really well. We put up with each other's quirks exceptionally well. There's a lot of things about me that are very specific, sensory stuff, just a lot of things. And same with him, and we just deal with each other really well. And I think that's been a crux of why our relationship has been so successful. Now, what we did not expect going into watching the show is that we would realize how on the spectrum we both were just from watching this show. It was like, I actually got emotional during watching the show and I started crying because for the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was really seen. I felt really seen by this show, and I felt really seen by the characters on the show. They were just being themselves, just sharing their story, sharing their journey, but I was like, oh my God, these are the same thoughts, these are some of the same behaviors, these are some of the same resistances that I myself have encompassed in my life, and I didn't have language for that. I'm 33 years old and I just discovered I have ADHD, and I'm just discovering that I'm more on the spectrum than I thought I was. And my husband to the T. I mean, his brain was exploding. He was like, I'm so uncomfortable watching this because I feel so called out. And at the same time, it made me so grateful for our relationship. Like, we had this intense gratitude for each other and for the relationship that we've created because we realize how quote unquote different we are or can be, and how it's very challenging to find someone when you're not neurotypical and your brain doesn't function neurotypically, who really gets your quirks or the things about you that are different, neurodivergent, who really understands that. And that typically you're most successful in a relationship with someone else who's also neurodivergent because you have that understanding on an intimate level. And so, you know, watching these different relationships and them going on first dates and communicating their fears or being coached by this relationship coach, it was like so eye-opening and so fascinating to me. And it made me just like love so much the life that we've built and the support system that we've built and the things we've taught each other without even knowing, you know, what our challenges are. We've learned how to coach each other through them. And from my experience, helping my husband like socially function in a professional role or in a personal role. And because the social skill set part happens to be something I'm really good at. And so helping him understand how to do that in a way that he feels comfortable without even like knowing, like that's what we've been doing for the past almost 7 years of our relationship. So if you haven't seen the show, Love on the Spectrum, I highly, highly recommend you watch it. It is so heartwarming. It is wonderful. It is just so enjoyable and so delightful and so honest. It's one of the few things I've seen on screen that felt as honest and as real, especially when it comes to relationships, which are challenging and scary and have so many things. I just loved it. It was such a delight. And it had the side effect of helping us feel closer to each other and helping us connect so much more deeply. Merry Christmas to you too. Sorry, I need water and I didn't bring any with me. So have you guys seen this show? Do you know what I'm talking about? You can drop a comment and let me know. If you're watching a replay, let me know as well. But I loved every moment of watching it. And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is I haven't made the commitment yet to get myself into therapy to explore like an official diagnosis and also explore how to work with that. One thing I've noticed with having ADHD and potentially being on the spectrum is we don't function the way everybody else does. So looking at schedules or jobs or relationships or parenting even, it's a very, very, very different experience. It's not like neurotypical people would function and operate. So like if someone says to someone who has the kind of ADHD I have, well, you just set the schedule and then you just do it, I'll just look at them and be like, ha ha ha. That's funny. Hey, Angelica. Yeah, like, you know, saying something like, here's a schedule, just follow it, like, obviously. But for those of us who have hardcore distractibility or just can't really stay focused, and that's a huge part of how we function, we have to learn how to work with that. And typically that kicks in for me when I have fatigue. So I have to understand that the things that I can commit to have to come in short bursts of time. Because if I'm sitting there, like the way the school system is built right now, for example, is not for children who are neurodivergent at all. It's actually the total opposite of that. It's called love on the spectrum, Rachel. Like a child who has inattentive, like I have, you're telling them to sit there for hours at a time at a desk. I was constantly doodling, writing, distracted. I was smart, so I could like keep up what I was learning, but I couldn't focus for very long periods of time. I was gone. I was in a completely different place doing something else, you know, while the teacher was just going on and on and on and on. And for those that have like the restless component, like they would just be like constantly fidgeting and doing stuff because it's not, that kind of educational system is just not meant for people like us. We don't function in that box. And so a lot of breaks is really important. For example, that's something that I've learned. It's really important to take breaks and do something else and particularly move your body. I think this is part of my fascination with fitness and what brought me into the fitness realm. And really, I enjoy so much about putting it into people's hands is because movement has been really curative for me in a lot of ways of my energy, of my focus, of my attention. And it also gave me something to control. I've realized that for me, like the need to feel in control, but also trust at the same time, that I'm constantly in like this battle between those two things. So I like to talk about controlling the controllable. And my fitness was something I could put in my hands and control. My health was something that I could put in my hands and control. And so I like to put that into other people's hands and be like, okay, here's something that even if the world is going to shit, you could probably still have a handle on. You know what I mean? And just like I said, same, I bought a planner this year to try and help. I've had problems just starting planners in the past. I have 4 planners I started in 2020. 4. I started 4. Why? Because I'll start one and I'll be like, this doesn't work for my brain. And then I start another one and I'm like, that doesn't work for my brain. And then I'll start another that doesn't work for my brain. So I'm actually on the verge of maybe making my own, specifically for people who have like my level of inattentive, because we just think differently and we need a different kind of planner. So like I'm currently curating that in my brain. Rachel said, my son is the same way. I am too. I homeschool, so I understand the struggle, but glad I can help him more. Yes. So my son is actually about to start VPK, which was an unexpected gift because it's free. It's a school 4 minutes from us, and it's like a charter school, so it's like semi-private, and it's short. It's only from like 9 a.m. to noon, which I'm thrilled about. It's great, but it's going to help him because I'm noticing in my son, he has restless, like, it displays in him as a lot of restlessness, and he just can't sit still. And he really, like, the peer contact is so important for him to like feel involved and included. So I made the decision, even though we were homeschooling strictly, to put him for a few hours in an environment where he could be in a different place with peers and have different activities, because they're constantly switching from one thing to another. It's not like they're just sitting there doing one thing. And I have a feeling that's going to help him a lot. And at the same time, it's going to help me to be able to work, do coaching calls and content plan without being distracted, because with having that distractibility, if I get interrupted, I'm gone from whatever I was doing. That's one of the main reasons you don't see my son in my videos a lot. Not because I wouldn't love to be able to have him on screen and hang out with me, but I lose my train of thought and I don't know what I'm saying. Like, getting distracted is something that really derails me, and so I have to make sure he's doing something else so that I can be here with you guys and like do something. Otherwise I'll do nothing. Right? So Kari said same. You'd buy my planner? Awesome. I might work on that. Yeah, so like I love having my son with me, and he's really funny and he loves to be on camera, but it's just like my brain can't handle him at the same time that I'm trying to like teach or communicate or do something. And that's another struggle that's been with like parenting and having being one of the things that happens to me is I get very frustrated when I get interrupted. And I'll notice that when he interrupts me, I just want to lash out because I'm so frustrated. And so I've had to really look at that as being like a massive trigger for me. You know, it's so funny. I watch my sister-in-law like get interrupted all the time, and she just is like so, like she handles it with so much grace. I'm like, wow, to have a brain that doesn't immediately want to like snap when you get interrupted, that must be magical. That's not my experience at all. I get super, super triggered by it. So I have just really been appreciated learning more about what it means to be neurodivergent and not operate in this world that was really structured for people who aren't like us. You know, the way that jobs are structured and school is structured and everything, it's structured for people who think and can stay focused on a single task for endless amounts of hours and don't get restless and don't get distracted and that's just not me. And for a long time I had a lot of guilt because I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be successful because I can't follow this XYZ rule book that other people are telling me is a rule book to be successful at anything. And when I finally learned, wait a minute, your brain doesn't work that way. You can still find success, but you have to find it on your wavelength. You have to find it working with your brain instead of working against your brain, which is what you've been trained to do for so long. Everything changed. I found so much more compassion for myself. I changed my schedule. The way I operate changed. And I've still had success. And so that's becoming like a deep passion of mine, is like communicating that to people and teaching them how to work with their brains instead of going against their brains, whether that's in fitness or health or just life in general. Yes, Kari, for real. It is not made for people who have not neurotypical brains, for sure. So anyways, watch the show, Love on the Spectrum. I think you'll love it, especially if you, for me, it was like an instant relating. I got emotional. I immediately wanted to cry. I was so happy the show existed, and I just was so invested in their journeys and their love stories. And my husband and I both just felt like this deepening that happened in our relationship. Like our appreciation of each other in our relationship was so deep. And I think we finally understood why we found each other and have connected so well, is because we couldn't find what we have with each other anywhere else. And it's most likely because we were looking to pair with people who were not neurodivergent and didn't share these differences, even if they are different from each other. And so they couldn't really relate on a level that we needed, verbally and non-verbally, you know, with us. So beautiful show, worth watching. Now, but announcement, which I said I was going to keep till the end. Now, the people who are on the email list are going to get the actual details, meaning like what the containers are, what the price points look like. All of that is going to come in the email. But I want to let you guys know that starting in January, because my son is finally going to have time for himself and his peers, I am finally available to take on private one-on-one coaching clients, which a lot of you have actually messaged me about. I'm like, hey, we know that you do like this fitness work, etc., but do you actually take one-on-one clients? Like, can you help me with my business or relationship or spirituality or whatever it was? And I didn't have the time to do it, to be honest. I was spread like way, way, way thin. So I've worked hard to find a solution for my son that helped him and worked for him, but also opened the doors, because the era that we are moving into right now is so intense and is requiring so much accountability and support spiritually and energetically. So I have been pushed to the forefront again to say, open your doors, make space for people to come in so that you can help them move through their ascension process and actually get to where they want to go internally and externally. So surprise, that'll be happening on a very limited basis. There's going to be 2 spots for intensives, which are just 90-minute sessions, and there's going to be 3 4-month long including unlimited Voxer support. So the details for that will roll out, like I said, in an email to everybody who's on the list. But if you'd like to learn more about that, you're also welcome to drop me a message. I'll write down your name, and when I send out that email, I'll make sure you get a copy of that campaign. Okay? So I love you guys so much. I hope you have the best Christmas Eve and the best Christmas on whatever holiday you're celebrating, and whether you're celebrating with family or not, that it's wonderful and you guys have an amazing time. Love you so much. Stay safe and stay together in spirit always. Bye.